Hi everyone, it's Anand from Finance Fix. Today I wanted to talk to you about how I increased my salary by over 44%. Back when I first started my career in the world of work, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I kind of fell into my niche. But though I didn't know what I wanted to do necessarily, I knew I wanted to achieve three things. Number one was to get into a graduate program. Number two was to get a job at a bank within 2 to 3 years after that. And number three was to get to a salary of £50,000. Starting with graduate schemes, one of the best at the time was with IBM. Now actually I was already working for IBM as a temp, and I loved the company. I loved their technology, I loved their matrix management style, I loved their ethos, basically everything about the company apart from the salary. But I was in the early stages of my career and I knew the salary was only going to go in one direction. And so I spent my time applying for graduate schemes. During the day I'd be working at IBM as a temp, and during the evenings and weekends I'd spend my time searching for graduate schemes that held my interest. Now the problem with graduate schemes was they had a long application process, lengthy application forms, and I hated these application forms, so I really only did them half-heartedly, and I spent more time trying to build relationships within IBM of people who were close to the graduate recruitment process, who knew about the graduate schemes in more detail, to see if I could make an impression and stand out in an application amongst hundreds if not thousands of other applicants. To cut a long story short, it worked. I was offered a position within the IBM graduate scheme for a division then known as IBM Business Consulting Services. But I didn't accept. Why didn't I accept? Well, whilst I was applying to these graduate schemes, during my lunchtimes and my breaks, I was also speaking to recruitment agencies because I hadn't lost sight that I had two other objectives, two other aims, and I didn't really mind which order I achieved them in. At about the same time I was accepted onto the IBM graduate scheme, I had also interviewed for and was offered a role within a fast-moving consumer goods company, an FMCG company. And actually, it paid substantially higher than what was on offer with the IBM grad scheme. And I also knew that with the IBM graduate scheme, I would be stuck roughly on the same salary for the next 2 to 3 years. And the recruitment agency really did a good job selling me this other role at the FMCG firm. Now this ended up being a real defining role for me looking back. It allowed me to grow my confidence, lead a major program for this firm, put me in touch with some really smart people that I dealt with on a day-to-day basis, and even gave me my first taste of management. So target one achieved. I got into a graduate scheme, even though I didn't end up taking it on. Target two was about getting into a bank. Now like everyone else, I know and knew then that financial services was where the real money was at. And so I was determined to get into a bank. And my mid-20s self also really liked the idea of working in a place like Canary Wharf. It was somewhere I aspired to be. Not only did I want to get into a bank, I wanted to get into a bank within 2 years of joining this FMCG firm. So about 1.5 years in, I started looking. I figured it would take me about 6 months in the search, apply, interview process. Now for the salary bit, and this is how I made my jump. Typically, a recruitment consultant, a recruitment agency, or a new employer will ask you what salary you are on in your current role. Do you know why they do this? Now, speaking as someone who's hired and interviewed many people, I don't do this, but I know many organizations that continue to do this to this day. The reason they do this is they want to get a gauge of how much experience you've got. And it's a bit of a misguided notion really, because how much experience you've got isn't necessarily determined by your current salary level. But think about it like this, and this is how they think about it. You're a candidate and your current salary is say £19,000 a year. Do you think it's realistic that your next job will be one paying £50,000? I bet you're probably shaking your head at that, or thinking no. Now think about it from the employer's perspective. You manage a team and that team has a vacancy. The vacancy for that role pays £50,000. One of the candidates that come to you for an interview is on a current salary at the current job paying £19,000. How confident would you be that that candidate can do the job well or has the right experience for the job that you need to fill? Again, you're probably thinking, not very confident. Now this is a bit of a misguided notion. Now in my view, the only things that should determine whether a person gets a role or not is their skill set, their experience, their attitude and their cultural fit for the organization and actually the team as well that they're joining. Nothing else. But that's not how the employment world typically works. Now, this didn't make sense to me even then, that I couldn't get a job simply because my current salary was much lower than the job I was applying for. And so I inflated my salary to recruitment agencies. And as I knew that I could do the job by the way it was described in the job description. And if I was to be shown up, then I would be shown up in my experience or lack thereof during the interview process. Now, ultimately, I got this job after a 3-stage interview process. And actually, within 2 years, I was leading the team that I had joined. So that's target 2 achieved, getting a job at a bank. And actually, I got target 3 achieved at the same time. So the key for me was to be assured that I could do the job that I was applying for. I was very honest with the recruitment consultant about my experience, what my current job entailed, how that experience aligned to the job I was applying for at the bank, and everything else. Everything apart from my current salary. And in fact, I inflated my current salary to £47,000, way more than I was currently on. And when I was ultimately offered the role, I told the new employer that I wouldn't move for anything less than a 10% bump in pay. Now, this is perfectly reasonable if I'm leaving somewhere I really like to move to another firm. And that's how I got to my magic £50,000 number and achieved a 44.44% increase in salary. Now, I hope you found that useful. And if you did, please smash that thumbs up icon below. Now, the only other part you might be thinking about at this point is what to do when your new employer asks for your P46. Now, your P46 is a document provided by your old company, by your current employer, when you leave them. And what that P46 does is it provides your new employer with the information they need to give you the correct tax code and get your payroll right. But did you know that you don't actually have to provide it to them? I didn't on this occasion. I sent my P46 directly to HMRC. I told them who my new employer was, and they in turn advised my new employer of my tax code so they could sort the payroll things out on their end. Simple as that. I hope you found that useful. And if you have, please smash that like icon below. It would really help me out. If you take away one thing, let it be this. Treat your career like a business. Only you should get to determine what your net worth is, not some misguided notion on how pay rises should work from job to job. Approach your career with the right mindset, a dose of realism, and a healthy dose of ambition, and you will find you will get what you deserve. Good luck, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for future updates and hit that notification bell. See you on the next one.